Evolution is an integral process for Pokémon, allowing them to grow up and have better stats or sometimes turn into a completely different looking things. Most of the time, everything about the pre-evolved Pokémon will also be improved after evolving, although not all the time. In today's video, we're gonna be looking at the top 5 Pokémon that are not worse than their evolved form. Keep in mind that they are not actually straight up better in some cases, but rather that they have different sparks in them. At number 5 we have Pikachu, the evolution of this Pokemon being Raichu. This is quite a poetic entrance, since in the anime, Pikachu also refused to evolve, but maybe you have better reasons in competitive Pokemon to do so. If you just look at the stats, everything about Raichu is better than Pikachu. From offensive stats like attack, special attack, and speed, to defensive stats like defense, special defense, and HP. So why is it even a thing to debate in the first place? Well, the problem comes from a Pikachu's exclusive item, Light Ball. This item doubles Pikachu's special attack and attack stat, making those reach maximum of 436 and 458 respectively if the nature and IVs plus EVs are optimized. Although still being frail compared to Raichu, Pikachu will have the immediate power in this case. Light Ball also allows Pikachu to play his physical set more effectively, which is not half bad, with moves like Knock Off, Focus Punch, Fake Out, Extreme Speed, Iron Tail, and of course we can't forget the stab move Volt Tackle. Raichu, however, is definitely relegated to run mostly just special attack set, since it can't run a physical set to as a solid effect as Pikachu can. It doesn't have the immediate power with Light Ball either, so Nasty Plot or Choice Specs will be the preferable choices. Although, to be fair, Raichu does have better bulks, and most importantly, a solid base speed of 110, which is 350 at best, tying with most mons like Gengar, Mega Diancie, Mega Vigoroth, etc., which can be important. And since it's mostly used in lower tiers, it's more likely that it's gonna be one of the fastest mon in that tier also, because you don't have to compete with the OU Titans. At least the differences are enough so you can maybe consider these two as different things and enjoy using them separately. Something tells me that you're gonna go with Pikachu though, because maybe your opponent would be more impressed if they got beaten up by a Pikachu rather than a Raichu. Coming at 4th we have Vigoroth, the pre-evolution of Slacking. This Pokemon has much worse numbers in every single stat compared to Slacking. And unlike Pikachu, it doesn't have an exclusive item to back it up either. However, it made it to this list all thanks to Slacking having arguably the worst ability of all time, Truant. Truant is an ability that skips the Pokemon's entire turn after using a move. Granted, you can still switch out, but of course, that would be too much of a detriment to play in almost every case. Being a powerhouse as a Slacking is, Truant alone is still enough to render Slacking with a very low usage and only as a chat option if you happen to feel like throwing your elos that day. Vigoroth, on the other hand, doesn't have that ability, which is quite strange on its own. If you look at both Slackout and Slacking, Vigoroth actually feels like an outcast. Although not quite used as much nowadays, Vigoroth can still do things that Slacking can't do. It does have Slack Off, which is a nice recovery move, and even better when you don't have to skip every of your other turns to do so, alongside a ton of other options to attack, such as Body Slam, Fire Punch, Ice Punch, Earthquake, etc. But let's be real here, if it's just that, we would still use Slacking 10 out of 10 times, as its power is unmatched while Vigoroth's damage feels pathetic at times. There was one set though, that worked quite decently in lower tiers back in the day. It contains Body Slam to spread paralysis or return / frustration for more damage, Slack Off for recovery, Taunt to disrupt your opponent's play, preventing them from statusing your Vigoroth as well as from getting hazards, and Bulk Up for sweeping potential. With the help of Eviolite, Vigoroth becomes quite bulky and can tank several hits from different attacks, though you gotta be careful not to get knocked off. Now, it's not the best thing in the world, but it indeed functioned pretty well in PU in the past and even considered too good for the tier at the time. that I feel like it's worth to give it a spot on this list. This example also shows you how an ability can ruin an otherwise amazing Pokemon, like Slacking, to a point when it gets less use than its pre-evolution. Quite sad it seems. Get ready to be dragged into the void, cause at number 3 we have Dusclops, the pre-evolution of Noir, whose name I may or may not pronounce correctly. Dusclops is quite interesting and might be considered better than Noir in a lot of teams actually. In terms of stats, Noir has slightly better defense and special defense, not much though, and a huge improvement in attack. But the problem is, Noir is just either too slow or its attack stat is not good enough, despite having a not bad move pool, you should say. It gets outclassed in every single tier as a physically offensive ghost-type Pokemon, such as Dragapult in OU, who has higher base attack and can run special attack set as well, Aegislash in UU, who doesn't need explanation, Mimikyu in RU with an amazing ability in disguise, Dhelmise and Golok in NU, who are both almost about as slow as Noir, but have better attack stats and ability, and they are not squishy in any way, shape or form. Blade in PU with higher attack, Swords Dance, and a nice extra typing in Steel. So if the offensive route doesn't work, just go the other way, you ask? Well, this is where the dilemma comes in, because in fact, if you were to use a defensive Noir, you would much rather run Dusclops, whose not only base defense and special defense are just 5 points lower than you, but it also gets buffed by using Eviolite. It doesn't really need a high attack stat either, when the only attacking move it will use is Nightshade for consistency. It can also be used for Trick Room and Memento for an easy setup for the dangerous sweepers in that playstyle. Saw can also be its home, with Pressure being a nice ability for this type of team, and also you're a ghost Pokemon, so you're not supposed to take on Knockoff either, as there should be someone else in Saw who can take care of that situation, so chances are your Eviolite is gonna stay intact. It's quite tragic for Noir though to be sandwiched like that, as it's not good enough as an offensive Pokemon and it gets outclassed by its pre-evolution if it tries to go defensive. At number 2, I totally didn't plan this out, we also have Porygon 2, the pre-evolution of Porygon Z. This is quite refreshing for the list actually, because its evolution, Porygon Z, it's not a bad Pokemon by all means. It's just that Porygon 2 served a completely different purpose. Porygon Z is known for its sheer power with its high special attack stat alongside adaptability and download ability to boost its special attack further. Porygon 2, however, is the complete opposite, with a decent base defense and special defense, as well as being a non-fully evolved Pokemon, allowing it to seek help from Eviolite. Porygon 2 is commonly seen as a defensive backbone for a lot of different teams in lower tiers. It also has Recover to sustain itself, as well as a handful of special attack moves, such as Ice Beam, Discharge or Thunderbolt, Shadow Ball, and Tri-Attack, so it can be quite a reliable tank, I would say. Just watch out for Knockoff though, as usual, if you hold Eviolite, you gotta watch out for that. And hey, Trace is also a decent ability, so that's cool. Porygon 2 is also known for being a Trick Room setter, and occasionally a damage dealer in Trick Room itself, if your opponent's team happen to be an aggressive team, as they will have troubles dealing with the Bolt Beam coverage with their not so bulky offensive Pokemons. It got better in this role during Gen 8 thanks to Teleport being buffed. Now it can set up a Trick Room and then teleport out to bring in a sweeper safely, instead of having to hard switch like back in the day. Overall, Porygon 2 wasn't exactly comparable to Porygon Z, but it does its job pretty well. And most importantly, would never get outclassed by Porygon Z, since, of course, they are two different things. Some honorable mentions before we get to the obvious number 1. Scyther is also a good lower tier Pokemon and technically faster than Scizor and can hold Eviolite quite effectively. However, if you have options to pick Scizor or Scyther, it's most likely still going to be Scizor, Galarian Mr. Mime is also quite interesting, as it can hold Eviolite for the stat boost thanks to the evolution Mr. Rime, and is faster and bulkier that way. However, Mr. Rime still has its uses thanks to its breaking potential in lower tier with a lot of more special attack, in conjunction with Nasty Plot, so these two makes for quite a nice equal duo. Magneton also has one set that it could run for a better effect than Magnezone. And no, it's not Eviolite, it's Choice Scarf. All thanks to its speed, with the trade-off of 10 special attack lower, it can now outspeed some key targets like Tornadus and Weavile, which Magnezone can't, even with a Scarf. Unfortunately though, if both of those are in the same tier, you will still lean toward Magnezone, because it is significantly bulkier, making its body press stronger, and it can tank a lot of different hits, also has slightly more special attack. As mentioned earlier, the number 1 spot was quite obvious. Chances are, you also clicked this video to see if your prediction for the first spot is correct. To that I'll say, you're absolutely right. We have Chansey, the pre-evolution of Blissey, who was the go-to number 1 special defense wall from Gen 1 to Gen 4, up until, well, the Eviolite introduction in Gen 5. With this item, Chansey becomes insanely bulky, its special defense is boosted further, while its defense is significantly improved. Now, it doesn't seem like 178 defense as maximum is a lot, but in Chansey's case, it's huge, as its HP is already at 704 maximum, and it goes a long way. Without a stat boosted super effective move, like a fighting move, Chansey ain't gonna go down to any one neutral hit, even when it comes from the insanely powerful physical attacker such as Bandit Crawdont, dealing 75.3% max, Bandit Melmetal, dealing 92.4% max, and even from Choice Specs Keldeo Secret Sword, which hits on the physical side at 92.1. So, you can safely say that Chansey is also sort of a physical tank, occasionally, especially when the attacks come from the average physical attackers, mostly Scarfers, without any fighting move. Chansey also has Stealth Rock, which is always going to be helpful, either Salt Bolt for recovery or Wish to heal back your teammate, Toxic and Seismic Toss to deal consistent damage, and Thunder Wave to ruin your opponent's play, and that's pretty much what it does its entire life, and it's still effective even up until these days. Everything sounds like it's an ideal tank for every team. It's not actually that splashable. As good as it is, Chansey also has its flaws, one of them being its passivity. Although Chansey survives a lot of physical hits that it shouldn't, it doesn't want to take on those hits either, especially against knockoff, as it would weaken Chansey a lot by losing Eviolite, so it will often switch out. That is very exploitable and easy to take advantage of. You see, when you spot a Chansey on the opposing side, you will actually have a lot of chances to bring in your breaker by Volt Switch or U-turn, because Chansey is definitely not the type of mon that could clap back instantly. You can also use it as a setup opportunity as long as you're aware of Toxic, that is. And a substitute could also be used in that case as well. That's why you will normally see Chansey in stall team more than others, because in that type of structure, it can afford to switch out, because you know you'll have something to deal with the breakers sitting in front of you, instead of risking to stay in to Toxic or switching out and letting them set up. Chansey straight up kicked Blissey out of OU down to UU with Eviolite, and that's not something you see every day for a pre-evolution Pokemon, and it deserved to come in at number 1. But of course, all good things must come to an end when an anonymous person blessed Blissey with a gift from heaven, but that's the story for another day. That's it for today's video. If you enjoyed this type of video, leave a like so more will come in the future. Thanks for watching. See you next time.